So big thank you to Sushma and the Theosophical Society for giving me this opportunity to share my art with you guys, and big thanks to my family for helping me set everything up, There's quite a lot of paintings here. And of course, much love and gratitude to the Ascended Masters for guiding me to where I am today and for allowing me to share this. All right. Now, what is sacred geometry? Sacred geometry is one of the interconnected branches of a timeless spiritual science practiced by our ancient ancestors. This sacred science is a way of understanding the very nature of reality. I use the word nature because sacred geometry is something that is naturally occurring. It's not just something that has been created, it is the algorithm of creation itself. It is the alpha and the omega, the beginning and the end, always was, always is, and always will be. Now, the patterns I'm about to introduce to you are visual representations of the universal mind, an archetypal pattern present in every form on all levels of creation, making up the structure and essence of all life. And studying and meditating upon sacred geometry is one of the many paths to understanding the metaphysical essence of the holographic universe. All right, now we'll start with order from chaos, the beginning. In the beginning, or the center of creation, there was nothing but pure consciousness, no space, no time, no form, no nothing, a stillness known in the East as nirvana. All right, now for God or the universe to experience itself, it had to set some parameters to its being. It must establish some sort of dimensional form before being able to contemplate and experience itself. Now, tzimtzum is a word used in the Kabbalistic mystery teaching. It means contraction or constriction. It is a process of creation in which God contracts his infinite light in order to allow for a conceptual space in which a finite and seemingly independent world could exist. This contraction forming an empty space which creation could begin. So this is a very, very theoretical thing. The images are just there to help us understand it, but this is said to be the first movement of creation. And in the Judeo-Christian teachings, there's this, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, and God said, "Let there be light." And now, the movement in this thing is important. When it says that it moves upon the face of the waters, this is referring to the next step in consciousness, where consciousness itself expands and projects to its outermost point, being the circumference of the circle, and from then it can continue or repeat its original creation, its algorithm. And then the next part in this Genesis is "Let there be light," which brings us to our second form besides the circle or sphere. And this is known as the vesica. Now, this is a symbol of balance. It's a symbol of oneness, of the masculine and the feminine coming together. And when coming together, they create the sun. And now the sun is no coincidence. It's a reference to light. And this shape in the middle, which is like the cosmic vagina, is where the next stage of life comes from. And you also notice it says, "And God saw the light," referencing to the experience of oneself, the metaphysical movement of that. And God divided to the light and the darkness. Again, this duality of this shape, the vesica. And the square root of 2, 3, and 5, which are some of the three first numbers of the Fibonacci sequence, can be geometrically calculated. So it's just like an inkling of the possibilities there. And you'll see the vesica in many things, the human eye being one of the main ones, and which is associated with light. You'll see the flame. I've got the Eye of Ra here, and even the universe, you can see the shape manifesting there. You also find that a lot of churches and whatnot, you'll find the Christ inside of this cosmic womb, representing this spiritual birth once again, the cosmic Christ consciousness coming forth from the cosmic womb. And there's also some obvious astrological references here. When you see the water bearer in the top left, Aquarius, and Leo down the bottom left, and Taurus, and then the eagle, which is also a representation of the scorpion. So there's a lot of zodiac references within this knowledge. It's very interlinked with stuff. And you also see on the right there's the cosmic Christ inside of this cosmic portal, and 12 angels representing the 12 houses of the zodiac. Now you also see these symbols in a lot of brands, a lot of logos and whatnot. Another one there is the Jesus fish, meaning the same thing, the cosmic Christ being birthed from the universal womb. Now, one of the reasons we should be conscious of using these symbols within logos and marketing type methods is because subconsciously we know the depth of the symbol, we know of our interconnected nature, and when we see these things, we're attracted to them immediately because we deep down we all truly wish to be one with one another and to reestablish our spiritual and metaphysical bond with the Creator. So we're often quite manipulated by that type of thing. When we see these things, we don't know what they mean, we just end up buying products. So that's something some people should be a bit conscious of. All right, now we reach the next stage of the pattern, where you can see these two circles of common radius, the Vescopisis here, and from there, where their circumferences meet on the outside, from that point onwards, the pattern continues and further extrapolates, and you can see it turns into this thing called the seed of life. Now, some interesting things to note is that you can see the Trinity there. The symbol of the Trinity comes from this. You can see the figure eight symbol meaning infinity and many other things, creation, destruction. And another thing, in a lot of sacred texts, it mentions that creation took 6 days, but on the fourth day, the creation was halfway through completion, and the seed of life is at its halfway point after the 4 spheres are added to the original. And then, of course, like I said before, the 6 days of creation, and on the 7th, God rested, or He obtained stillness. All right, now you can find this, the seed of life in many places. You can also see that the yin and yang derive from this, because it is a symbol of immaculate balance. And the koi fish, another interesting thing that I've come to find out is that koi translate to the feeling of love. It's about the essence of love. And that's just something interesting I found. All right, you'll also find sacred geometry on a microcosmic level. In fact, the seed of life is the morphogenic structure that created our physical body. So you can see that one there. All right, now the next stage is the flower of life. And by further extrapolating using the same method from the outermost circumference of the outer circles, you gather this pattern here. Now you can see that the bottom left is the addition of the circles, but these other symbols that you see here are just filling in the petals to make it look a bit more complete. And from that we get the Kabbalistic tree of life. And here you see more of the Kabbalistic tree of life, which is also the key of life, or the Ankh, known within the Egyptian tradition. They're from the same very sacred and very old knowledge. And within these things, you'll see the 3 pillars. And the 3 pillars, the 2 outsides, Boaz and Jachin, known in the Masonic tradition, the 2 pillars are known as the masculine and the feminine. And the path down the middle is Jacob's ladder, which is like the balance between the two. And you'll also notice 3 stages vertically, 3 major stages, things being Kita and Tiferet and Malkut. And Malkut is our connection with the earth, which is our root chakra. Malkut is our connection with the feminine. Tiferet is the heart chakra, our sacred heart and our center, and is a major part of the spiritual life, and Kita being the crown. And these 3 stages must be in perfect balance, or people, they act in very unbalanced ways. You can be too grounded and get too attached to the material world, or you can be too up in the sky, too too spirited, and you can also lose sight of reality. And I got some nice image there where you can see this Kabbalistic tree of life put into an old Masonic drawing, and in the middle, where Teferet would stand, you can see the G of Masonry, Freemasonry, which I believe to stand for geometry, or God, all the same thing. And another thing is a lot through Egypt, you'll find this Ankh symbol, but it's been vandalized. The top part of it, which is the sacred womb, has been kind of rubbed off because there's a lot of Christian crusaders that come through, and they, being more of a masculine religion, they destroyed that, and the bottom is the masculine. And also here within the Kabbalistic tree of life, you can see that 7 chakras. Now Dat cannot be existing while Malkut is, because it's the Kabbalistic tree of life is like a kind of a diagram of our DNA and many cosmic and things, but I'm not going to get too much into that. But if you notice, there are 7 layers besides that there, so the chakra is also represented. Now the tree of life can also be seen in Genesis, within the story of the creation, and you can see in this nice image there, we also have the masculine and the feminine to each side. And in the middle, where Eve is reaching for the apple, is around the center. And the serpent is a symbol of DNA and many things, also a symbol of the messenger and the sacred message from the heavens. And this story itself, to me, means the family tree. I consider the Kabbalistic tree or the tree of life to be our interconnected nature with one another, the same way there's the genealogical aspect to a family tree. And when you take the apple from it, you're taking yourself from this interconnectedness, and you're creating your own egotistical universe, which isn't part of the whole. All right, now you'll find the sacred pattern, the seed of life, and the fruit of life, and all of its extrapolations in all corners of the globe in many different forms. These images are from Turkey, from Ireland, from India, and Scotland. I think one of them Scotland as well. You also find it in China, in the Forbidden City. You'll see this Fu dog, which is the guardian of the wisdom, and under his paw you can see a spherical version of this extrapolated seed of life. And as far as I know, the oldest known fruit of life, tree of life, is in the Assyrian temple in Abydos, Egypt. And they say that it's not just been etched into stone, but it's actually lasered into the granite. So that's some pretty intense thing to think of. And it's also been studied by some of the most intelligent minds of our history. This is from Leonardo da Vinci's scrapbook. And you can see clear patterns of this geometry. He was very familiar with that, and the golden mean, the golden ratio, and pi-phi, all of these things. And you'll also find it within cornfields all over the world, which is a very interesting thing. You'll see the sacred geometry is projected into them. And another thing, the plants that have been leveled to create these images have not been broken, but instead bent at a 51-degree mark. These samples have been taken from these areas, have been found that their crystalline structure is different from the samples taken anywhere else, and they also germinate quicker, the seeds that have been found within these areas. And people that I've talked to about entering these crop circles, they talk about its amazing presence. So it's a interesting thing to think about when people talk about aliens and extra-dimensional creatures. They're obviously very familiar with this knowledge and trying to share it with us, so one should not be afraid of these type of beings. There's a lot of movies out these days making them seem horrifically evil and whatnot, coming to destroy us, but it's not a good thought process to get caught in. Here are a few more examples of it, more in its torus type of form, which I'll get into a bit later. Okay, now we enter the next phase. You remember there's this fruit of life. When it's extended from this point, when the zona pellucida is broken, then you'll reach the next the next one, which is the fruit of life. And I've circled the 13 major spheres in this, which is known as Metatron's cube. And the first image to the left there is the feminine version of it. And when you add the lines to the center of all the circles, then you reach the masculine, and that's the complete Metatron's cube. Now, myths of Metatron are extremely complicated. There's at least two separate versions. Some say that Metatron was there at the start of creation. Some say he was a character called Enoch who reached enlightenment and was ascended to the heavens. And he has the ability to help us know the true measure of things. Interesting little pun there. He's known as the most powerful of the archangels, and his names can be translated to the soul of the Elohim, the one capillary of the Creator, the designer of the universe, and is the only archangel to use the words, I am that I am. All right, now here you can see the 5 Platonic solids, which can be found within Metatron's cube, and these stone sculptures were found in the Neolithic areas of Britain, at least 1,000 years before Plato. So it shows that this knowledge goes far beyond the Greeks, and the Platonic solids is not derivative from Plato. All right, now for those of you who don't know the Platonic solids, these are them here. There's only 5 of them. They've created like computerized programs to try to discover a 6th, but there seems to only be 5 possibilities. And what makes a Platonic solid is they're the only polyhedra whose faces are all exactly the same. Every face is identical to every other face. For instance, a cube is a Platonic solid because all 6 of its faces are congruent squares. They're all the same proportions. The same number of faces meet at each vertex. Each vertex has the same number of adjacent faces as every other vertex. For example, 3 equilateral triangles meet each vertex of the tetrahedron, which is the top right one there, the tetrahedron. And when that tetrahedron is doubled and there's a masculine and feminine, you get the Star of David or the Merkaba, which we'll get to soon. Now, each of these Platonic solids is associated with an element. There's fire, earth, air, ether, and water. Ether being prana or chi or tachyon energy, lots of translations for it, but there's the association to that. And every element on the periodic table has a relation to at least one of the Platonic solids. This concept was ridiculed within the mainstream sector until the 1980s, when Dr. Robert Moon from the University of Chicago demonstrated that literally everything in creation is based on these 5 forms. Here's another interesting image I've got here. This was going to be part of my esoteric architecture talk I was going to do, which I'm going to leave for a later date now. But you can see how these extrapolated version of the fruit of life here sits perfectly over Stonehenge. And if you look at the sacred geometry in the top right, that's all to do with the movements of the sun, the stars, and the moon. And this is greatly to do with geometry as well, the measurement of these. All right, now Metatron's cube is found in many crop circles as well, or symbols of it. And you can see within Metatron's cube that it's made up of a cube inside of another cube. And so it's also known as the double cube as well as Metatron's cube, or the hypercube. And here's a few more little examples of that, the cube inside of the cube. And this is also found all over the world in many different traditions. You can see Jesus inside of this portal. And I think this top right one was from Samaria as well. All right, now the double cube is associated with the 4th dimension. So a dot being 0 dimension, a line being 1, a square 2, a cube 3, and this double square or double cube being the 4th dimension. Now you can see it in this image here. I'll leave this up for a little bit so you can just kind of look at that for a bit, because it's a pretty intense image right there. And that's probably about enough. I'll be getting back to that soon, because this image is the masculine version of the torus, which is the next part of this we'll be getting into. And Einstein's theory of general relativity describes the universe, the whole of space and time, as a four-dimensional manifold. Space itself is not flat but curved. The curvature of space is responsible for gravity. And at a black hole, space and time are also curved. They get knotted up, which you kind of see in that torus, that the centers have kind of been knotted up after all that curvature. Yep. And here you can see that the torus is also derivative of the seed of life and extrapolations of that with the additional circles to it. And it's just, you can just see it's kind of from the top view looking down to the bottom where the black hole and the white hole meet, and these two dimensions find balance. Now in particle physics, the donut shape or the torus is known to provide the best environment within which to accelerate particles, because it can hold and route plasma formed by such machines in a more efficient manner. And the toroidal shape has also been discovered to be the most efficient way to wind an electrical transformer, as a coil wound in this configuration produces very clean and highly accurate, precise and reliable power. Now when it comes to designing gravitational environmental habitations, the torus has been realized as the preferred shape within which to enclose a space station or star colony. The design below was engineered at Stanford University and is called the Stanford torus. It is the most efficient way to distribute the space and achieve the gravity required to maintain life. And I also put a little picture of a UFO there, a little flying saucer, because they say that using this zero-point technology that comes from this torus, that vehicles like this have power, and it also kind of looks like a little Vescopisis as well. Interesting little note there. So these are more crop circles of the torus, and they're different shapes and different forms. And you'll also find this pattern in nature. It's all the sacred geometry is very nature. It's all the people who are familiar with this have generally learnt from observing nature, and you can see that these beautiful patterns exist flawlessly within nature. And we're going to look into the pine cone now, which is one of these beautiful things. And the pine cone is symbolic of the pineal gland, which is the kind of anatomic equivalent to the third eye, the all-seeing eye. And pineal is Latin for pine cone, also pine needle, also kind of sounds like pineal, pine needle, pineal, another little thingy there. But an interesting thing I came across when I was researching for this and things like this, it's interesting to note studies on the river downstream from mills that process pine trees and bark and pulp are left saturating in the water. Often the female fish have actually been found to turn into male fish. Now this is just a characteristic of the pine cone, a specific type, and obviously it wouldn't happen to us because of the differences in our genetic form, but I don't know what that means, but I found it very interesting anyhow, so I thought I'd share that with you today. Now the pineal gland is the geometric center of the brain. It has more blood flow per cubic volume than any other gland in the body. It's associated with the third eye and visualization and the seeing of the etheric and astral realm. And it was considered by many ancient cultures to have been the gateway to higher dimensions. And you can see here from this image that the Egyptians knew a lot about this. You know, they knew a lot about the anatomy of spiritualism. And some other things about the pineal gland. When the pineal gland cannot detect light, it secretes melatonin into your cerebral spinal fluid, activating the nerves system sleep mechanism. It also secretes DMT, dimethyltryptamine, found in shamanic potions such as yopo and ayahuasca, which when properly used are known for their unexplainable glimpses into high geometric realms. You know, the people that I've spoke to that have taken it get into some crazy things about geometry. Whether or not they've heard of sacred geometry, their descriptions are always very similar. And an interesting little parable I found here is the people who sat in darkness have seen the great light. and those who were sitting in the region and in the shadow of death, to them the light was dawned. All right, now here's some other symbols of the pine cone being used in ancient times. You can see this in Osiris's staff with the cobras winding around it, which is a symbol of the Kundalini resurrecting and reaching its highest point. And the staff of the caduceus with the serpents around it, whereas same symbolic thing of the Kundalini and the wings representing the higher realms. And an interesting thing is within Freemasonry there's 33 degrees and there's 33 vertebrae in the human spine, which this the staff representing the spine. And when you reach into the brain and these realms, then you're getting into some next level stuff. And there's also 33 paths of the tree of life between Sephiroth, which I don't have an image here, but you can kind of get the picture from that. Here's another one with Dionysus holding the pinecone staff, and he's the god of intoxication. And you can also see it here with the Sumerian winged god holding this pinecone, and also the Anunnaki of the Sumerian tales. They're holding the pinecone at the top of the tree of life. Their interpretation of the tree of life, which has 7 little flowers blooming off the sides, reference to the chakras. Also see it with Shiva, with the kind of the headpiece, the symbology there, and of Buddha, and turbans. The turbans are also symbols of this crown activation. And you'll also find it on the pharaohs where these headpieces with a cobra at the top, meaning the same thing, the Kundalini reaching reaching the pineal gland and the crown chakra and opening up to these higher dimensions. And they're always accompanied by a vulture representing the higher and the lower self, because it's very important to know that you can't have one without the other. People who try to stimulate their higher chakras and raise their kundalini without any knowledge or without a solid foundation will often get into a world of hurt and confusion. So one shouldn't jump straight into some heavy stuff to do that. They should focus on the heart, being the medium between the higher and lower self, and focus on that type of thing. And at the feet of Shiva there, you can also see the conch shell, which is another symbol of the pineal gland being built with that Fibonacci geometry. And it also, when you put it to your ear, you can hear the ocean, and that's another symbol of the pineal gland because it contains water. And when you put bad things into your temple, into your body, like aspartame and sodium fluoride found in our tap water, or any synthetic bleached products, then it will calcify over, and that gland will no longer have the potential that it once had. You also find the pinecone on the staff of the Pope, which is another interesting one there. So he's very familiar with this knowledge. Whether or not it's shared with the people is another aspect, and I don't want to get into that now. But also inside the Vatican grounds, you'll find this giant pinecone, which is said to be the biggest pinecone sculpture in the world. But there's also other sculptures like the Gherkin in London, which is a beautiful, beautiful geometric structure which contains this geometry, which is the symbolic essence of the pineal gland and what it represents, its association with higher realms. You can also find it in Angkor Wat in Cambodia. You'll find these similar pinecone-shaped kind of temple pieces, which again symbolic of the higher realms and the geometric information that unites us all. And actually Angkor Wat was like a massive Buddhist colony. Everyone was there, was very into their spirituality, and it would have been lovely to see it during its flourishing times. Oh, and then that picture down the bottom is of a mosque somewhere in Iraq. I can't remember the name, unfortunately, but you can see again this toroidal geometry. All right, now back to the torus. Scientists have also suggested that the entire universe may be shaped like a torus, Itzhak Bentov, in a final book called A Brief Tour of Higher Consciousness, published just after his passing, is dedicated to the idea that all reality, including consciousness itself, can be modeled with the toroidal manifold. His diagrams show galaxies as being toroidal forms with white holes putting out energy while black holes on the opposite side take it back in. And the inventor of the Bell helicopter and other major innovations, Arthur Young, also explores the function of the torus as models of primary cosmology in his famous work, The Reflexive Universe. You'll also find this toroidal energy field, this torus, on the electromagnetic field of the Earth, also in the universe, the spiraling galaxies, like they all have the same geometry, whether seen or unseen. Also in the human aura, where there's a nice image here from Tuesday Lobsang Rampa's book, where he gets into the aura and the Merkaba and things like this, and you can see kind of the force coming out of the crown chakra and spiraling around the body, and another one with the Christ consciousness being cloaked in this, which leads me to the realization that the macrocosmic, microcosmic nature of all things, that as above, so below, as an alchemic term describing the fractal nature of the holographic universe. And this geometry is just a pathway of understanding this and experiencing this. It's not anything by itself, it's all about the wisdom that's encoded within it. You can see the pentagram here, often thought to be evil, and the fractal nature of it. You can keep on adding pentagrams and it goes for infinity. And the same with the Star of David, it just keeps on going and going. And you can also see the Kabbalistic tree of life, that it fits into a circle, fits into the seed of life, and will continue outwardly and internally for infinity. All right, now, the chakras, since ancient times, seers have confirmed that the human aura appears as a series of nested spherical torus formations, and the word chakra in Sanskrit literally translate to wheel or turning, this ever-going consciousness. And there's a nice little thing here from Revelations, blessed are those who wash their robes, wash their auras, that they may have the right to the tree of life and may go through the gates into the city. And now we get into the Merkaba, and that's what the Star of David is a symbol of the energy body, which the Star of David, just a masculine form of this feminine and masculine energy with lines rather than circular forms, and it means the same thing. It's about the balance, the higher and lower self, and combining them. And history has talked about the Merkaba mostly as a vehicle that allows a person to ascend or descend into higher or lower worlds. But actually, Merkaba is much more than just a vehicle of ascension. It can be really anything, since it is the primal pattern that created all things and all universes, both visible and invisible. And that's a little passage from the Ancient Secrets of the Flower of Life, volumes 1 and 2. And now, further looking into the Merkaba, it pretty much means means a kind of light that rotates within itself. Ka meant spirit in Egyptian, in this case referring to the human spirit, and Ba meant the human body, though it also could mean the concept of reality that the spirit holds. And so the entire world in ancient Egypt refers to the rotating light that would take the spirit and the body of the world in another. And the Egyptians, famous for building those big ass pyramids, the words pyramid comes from pyro and midst, meaning the fire, from like pyromaniac, and midst in the middle. So again, you can get back to this, the higher and lower self, and the fire in the middle, that innermost consciousness. Now, in the Bible, there is reference to Ezekiel and the wheel by which Ezekiel ascended into heaven. Now, this was the Merkaba, and in the Torah, there's reference to the Merkava, as it's spelled in Hebrew, which has two different meanings. One meaning is chariot, which is a vehicle, and the other is the throne of God. Now, when the two definitions are combined, the true meaning comes to life. And I just found nice images here of some old coins where you can see the wheel of Ezekiel kind of taking the form of some alien spacecraft or a mushroom or a Taurus, you know. And on the other side of the coin, I just found interesting, it said, "Let this growth be pleasing for your heart." So this, you know, this knowledge is so old, so infinite. And now you see some different types of toruses. You know, there's a ring torus, the horn, and the spindle, depending on the distance between the circles. And then we get back to the creation story where the apple is used, the apple being a very symbolic thing. And you can see that the geometry of the apple is very much like a torus. And in the center of the torus, which is known as the heart of the torus, is the seeds or the information that can continue creation, the seed of life, if you will. And again, back to creation, there's the apple, which is a symbol of the heart. It's a symbol of separating the heart from the tree of life, the family tree. And it also can work in reverse. Instead of the fall of man, we can resurrect using the same spiritual science with our DNA, the symbol of the serpent, and finding balance in our heart. And another interesting thing is when at the start of the Bible, it says that man was made in God's image, talking again about this geometric form that we're all created in, this sacred geometry. And another interesting thing is the word man is not necessarily meaning just a masculine figure. It comes from the Hebrew letters Aleph, Mem, Aleph, and Nun. Aleph is also the word where life comes from. So it's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, or the Son and the Father, just this Trinity of all life. And so the heart being the center of the torus, this stillness and this balance of the higher and lower worlds and energy is very interesting, because the heart is the most powerful generator of electromagnetic energy in the human body, producing the largest rhythmic electromagnetic field of any of the body's organs. These energy fields take the form of a torus. The heart's electrical field is about 60 times greater in amplitude than the electric activity generated by the brain. The magnetic fields produced by the heart is more than 5,000 times greater in strength than the field generated by the brain. So, I mean, this information is quite important when we understand that we're moving in a transition, in a paradigm shift into heart consciousness, and letting go of all these thoughts and that version of consciousness where we're just picking up different thought projections and holding on to some and not actually experiencing the moment itself. Now, in Egypt, you'll often find their statues there crossing their hearts, holding the key of life, because they knew the importance of this heart consciousness. And you'll also find that in a lot of sculptures they step forward with the left foot, and this is another reference to this heart consciousness and leading with your heart rather than just your intellect. You know, there's that intuition there, which is another important part of our being that we often forget about in this busy world. You also find the symbol of the heart and of the cycle of consciousness symbolizes the swastika, or the sun wheel, and there's a beautiful image here with the Buddha having it on its heart. You know, it's not a symbol that has negative connotations. You know, the Nazis used it because of its powerful things, and again, I remind you of the marketing aspect. You know, they're getting people to follow you. You need to be messing with their minds on a pretty deep level if you want to make them do the twisted things that the Nazis did. And here's a few other ones. One from Baalbek, Lebanon, which also has like the biggest bit of solid stone around the world, or the biggest known bit of stone. It weighs like 20,000 tons or something, and modern cranes can lift about 2,000 tons. So what's going on there? Who knows? Another one from Tibet. And here you see lots of variations of the swastika, or the sun wheel, as I prefer to call it, from all over the world, because of its multiple and its deep meanings. And here you can see the beautiful spiralization of the universe, and the kind of the swastika in there, and it also a similar symbol to the swastika, representing the creation and destruction in one motion, is the Ouroboros, which is often used in kind of esoteric. There's one of the classic esoteric symbols used in Freemasonry and this and that. But you see it's kind of eating its tail, it's creating and it's destroying at the same time. So it's also a reference of the breath and the exhale and the inhale, or the breath of Brahma, also known in this balance, this polarity. All right, so this is the last slide of my thing. So I just wrote a little bit here. Intrinsically, we're all connected by the geometric matrix of information known as God or the universe. The further we travel inwards, the closer we become to the source of creation, the unchanging center of the cosmic wheel. Now, as we become more and more in tune with the Sacred Heart, we become less concerned with the suffering present on the outer layers of existence. We become still and begin to flow in harmony with the divine will, ceasing to clash with the karmatic waves of desire. And I think geometry is a beautiful way of understanding this spiritual journey, because the circumference of the circle, the outermost world, like the physical world, and full of change and karma and suffering, and the more you get in, the more still you get, and the more in tuned with the center of consciousness you become. So much love, everyone. That's what I wanted to share with you today. And there's a lot of information that I think is quite important in this transition, available at balance.co.nz.